let's talk about my favorite back pain tricks. All right? Because we're just going to mesh it all into one today. Let's do this.
The goal here is to learn how to treat your mind and body like a professional athlete. Welcome to Mind Your Body. I'm Dr. Audra Lance. I'm a doctor of chiropractic who specializes in treating sports and non-surgical injuries. Anything that involves muscles and joints. I treat big-name celebrities and professional athletes. Most of my patients refer to me as the witch doctor because they can't explain any other way their pain was removed that quickly. I hate cooking, but I do love wine, and don't even think about giving me anything that involves ketchup because I will not eat it. Every episode of this show is designed to help you move better, live better, and feel better. Now let's go do this thing.
Hello, butthole breathers. Today, we're going to talk about every chiropractor's favorite topic, back pain. We're going to go through some of my favorite back pain hacks, maybe things you haven't thought of, maybe the way you're approaching it is a little off. So you might want to grab a piece of paper or maybe get out your section of your notes in your phone because we're just going to dive into it. That being said, it is January and we are starting off the year in gratitude, thankfulness, and giving. And for every 5-star review, written review, I'm going to donate $10 to a charity. And the cool part is I want to know what charity you're passionate about. So the way you can do this is if you're a podcast Apple listener, go write the 5-star written review and in the show notes, tag your Instagram handle and put your favorite charity or cause you're passionate about. If you're a Spotify listener, tap the 5 stars and then you're going to share it and tag me at Dr. Audra Lance on your Instagram. And you can write in there or DM me the cause or charity you're most passionate about. Because this is like something I want us to do together and it's free for you and we get to give back. And the goal is going to be $2,000. That's 200 reviews. So I would love for you to share this with your friends and family so that we can all give back together. And you guys are telling me where you want me to give it to. So I'm really excited for this. And this is something I'm very passionate about. And thank you so much for taking the 3 seconds. Okay. It's more like 30 seconds to 45. In doing this. Back to the back pain. Pun intended. We're going to focus specifically on low back pain because there's a multitude of different, spots where you can have pain. But what's most common, I feel like, or comes in waves is low back pain. And obviously there's a different reason for low back pain. So what our goal is at the clinic is to figure out the root cause. What is the stress on the body? What is it telling us? What do we need to do about it? And the worst advice that a doctor can tell you is to not move and just to lay there and just, lay in bed till it passes. That is so old school. And we know way more than that now in the manual therapy world. We need to have our tissues and our joints move and get blood flow. And that's how your body helps eat and fight some of that inflammation, not just laying there, that you're becoming the Tin Man. We need to oil those joints and lubricate those joints. And how do you do that? It's by movement and moving those joints through all ranges of motion. So please remove that from your brain. Now, obviously, don't come at me. If you have a broken bone or there's some other extenuating circumstance, I get it. Like you're not supposed to move. But for our muscle spasms or muscle strain sprains, and I get it. People come in the clinic in huge amounts of pain and they feel like they can't move. But we always find a directional preference of which way we can move, or there might be something more serious going on. So I challenge you, even if it's just breathing, try to do some kind of movement and try to just, even if it's rolling around. But in general, if you have low back pain, you're going to fall in a few different criteria. And you'll hear me joke, and my husband's, we have this joke that I think press ups and restarting your phone changes your life. And if you've been binging the podcast for a while, you have heard me say this. The press ups are like, if you've ever done yoga, it's the cobra pose essentially, but I call it like a sloppy cobra pose. You're pressing up and you're leaving your hips on the ground, and you want to think saggy butt, saggy stomach, which if you're in yoga and Pilates, like you would cringe. But that is how we are opening up that joint. Blood, healing cells, inflammation fighters are able to get in there and help. And we're just opening the joint in a different direction. Now, that being said, sometimes you need to be bending forward, but more often than not, like bending forward, stretching your hamstrings is actually making the problem worse, even though in the moment you feel like there's relief. You're like, oh, my hamstrings are just tight. And a lot of times that's not the case. So you need a specific movement and game plan. And to find your specific movement and game plan, of course, you can test it out yourself. But that's why I created the sciatica game plan, so you can figure it out yourself, and why we offer in-person and virtual appointments at the clinic, so you can have a doctor help you guide through it to a personalized game plan. The links are in the show notes for both of those. Scheduling an appointment virtually or in person at the clinic, and the sciatica game plan. Getting so excited, I sound like I'm out of breath. So first things I want you to remember is movement heals, and movement is going to be key in low back pain, even though most of us have been taught of, oh, we need to sit and rest. Then I want to ask you, do you even believe you can heal? Or are you going to be one of those people who are like, well, I just have a bad back. This is just, a bad back. I have a bad back. That's just me. If you are constantly saying that to yourself, if you really believe that, if it's what you focus on, you will have a bad back. What you focus on is what proceeds. And I see this over and over and over again. For instance, I had this professional athlete, and they're like, my dad has bad knees. I have bad knees. Like, that's why my knees hurt. And he's like, it'll just be like this forever. And I'm like, why do you think that? And they're like, oh, it's genetic. And I was like, not this thing. No. And so we were able to get their foot activating correctly. We were able to get their hip activating correctly, their pelvic floor, and their knees are fine. It was fine. But part of what was holding this athlete back was the belief that they had bad knees. And I see this with bad, quote unquote, bad backs all the time. I had another professional athlete who they were better, like 95% better, but they were just so hesitant, like worried. They're like, it's going to happen again when I do that movement. So it's like, if you had your back spasm when you were brushing your teeth, your brain put up a resistance of, oh my gosh, every time I do it, almost like a PTSD, right? So then we had to work on that belief and that stress of doing that movement again and building it up to create new beliefs and stress. So that's what the RM technique that I have created is. It's, of course, great treatment with great techniques from around the world, but then we're adding the next layer of the mindset and the belief. Do you believe you can heal? What other beliefs do you have around this injury? And then 3, the stress component of good and bad stress. Good stress on your body is still a stress, and our body doesn't really know the difference. It's still going to activate in the sympathetic zone. So we need to be able to mitigate that, have tools to bring your body back in a state where it's able to heal itself, because ultimately our bodies are so amazing and so smart. They want to heal themselves. So let's review. 1, we're going to need to move for your low back. 2, we're going to need to believe it can heal. And 3, what is something you may be doing if this wasn't a catastrophe, like a crazy event of like a hit or something like that, a fall? Like, what are you doing every day that can be contributing to this? And this might be the same little movement, but you're compensating. And after thousands of repetitions of doing that, you're going to, quote unquote, tweak your back or cause inflammation, or it's slow build of inflammation. So that could be not correctly picking something up. Maybe, and this is for a lot of us, you're sitting all day and you're not taking breaks. You're not walking. You're not moving. You can take a phone call walking around sometimes. You can do a lot more things standing than you think and give yourself a break. We are not made to sit all day. Maybe you drive all the time. That's still sitting. You need to prioritize pulling over, getting up, walking around, doing some movement in different directions, because all of that is contributing to your back pain. So those are a few examples. I would love to hear more of. Think about this for a second and tell me if you're watching on YouTube in the show notes, or you can DM me. Like, what is something you're doing all day, every day that you're like, ooh, now that you have me thinking about this, I bet this is contributing to my low back pain. And that's just another example of stress in the body. Like, how are you stressing your body, even in movement? And this is why it's so important. And when I preach, like, we need to be strength training, weightlifting. We need to be walking. Like, these are some foundational ingredients for a really good body. And then, so we have movement. Do you believe you can heal? What's the stress and what's your like compensation patterns? That's 3. And 4 is inflammation. So are you hydrated? Most people think they are and they really aren't. And then what are you shoving in your mouth every time you eat? Is it chemically inflammatory for the cells in your body, creating towards the inflammation? Food is not only about your weight and losing weight. Food is also about the amount of inflammation chemically in your body that contributes to your pain. Oh gosh. My husband tells me all the time, he's like, don't freestyle English. Like, you're not like, please stop freestyling, because usually I can't put words together, but that was real good. I'm going to like clap for myself. You got to celebrate the little things. And the best part is English is like my only language. We were just in Costa Rica. We take, if you've been following me on Instagram at Dr. Audrey Lance, we take a trip every year around that time and go somewhere big. And it's just like a great reset. It's a great time to dream, and actually like recharge, relax. But I took 4 years of Spanish in high school. And then like when I'm around Spanish, I can speak it a little bit, but you know, they'd always be like, Espanol, poquito, poquito. And it's funny when you go around, Spanish everywhere is a little bit different, right? They have their little own like slang and everything. And they were saying to us, like when we would say gracias, they'd go, pura vida, pura vida. And one day I asked, I was like, why don't you say de nada? Like, that's what I learned is you're welcome. And they're like, oh, that's more like Mexico Spanish or Spain Spanish, I suppose. I know I have listeners from multiple countries, so please educate me. And they're like, but down here, everything's pura vida. Like, that's all you need to know. So that was pretty fun. But if you're having low back pain, just remember all these contributors. And I know it's not what you might have thought of as like, oh my gosh, there's so many different layers that could be attributing to my pain. And that's also what I want you guys to know about any injury or any pain you're experiencing. It's often layers that we have to like dig through and peel off slowly to figure out and heal you. And getting to that root cause is key to getting to the best game plan possible to have you move your best, feel your best, and live your best life, which you deserve. So cheers to that, y'all. Have a great day.
Now, if you want to do something really special for me and got a lot out of this episode, go leave a 5-star written review of the show on Apple Podcast. And if you're a Spotify listener, just tap the 5 stars. To submit any of your health questions to the show, simply DM me on Instagram at Dr. Audrey Lance. And don't worry, all your questions will be kept strictly anonymous. So send me all your embarrassing questions. And don't forget, breathe into your butthole. Toodaloo!